So, for the audience, everyone, today we will be discussing things like white nationalism, fascism, racism, Nazism, and diversity. Would you like to briefly say what your beliefs are or a summary of your ideology? And then we can.
Perfect. So my ideology is essentially a form of American fascistic racialism, I would say. Um, it follows principles related to corporatism. It follows Mussoliniism, and of course, an American perspective in the modern day.
All right. Is that all?
I'd say that I've had these beliefs for about 2 years, which is where I finally started being radicalized, and honestly, nothing else after that, I'd say.
Okay. Just briefly, like, what is the main thing you would say radicalized you?
Honestly, the way that I saw, quote unquote, American minorities, such as African Americans or Hispanics in real life, just the way I saw their mannerisms, right, their behaviors. I saw their disruptiveness. I saw how they behaved in modern society. And honestly, I didn't like that at all. I mean, I felt maybe scared sometimes when I was near them, but I wouldn't say I'm scared right now when I go outside or anything. But it was when I was like in 2023, I'd say.
Okay, so we'll get into that. The first
Hmm.
topic we're going to discuss isn't
Correct.
going to be race. The first thing I'd like to discuss is Israel-Palestine briefly. So first, I just want to say like what my ideology is for the audience. So basically, I
Yes.
identify as a liberal. The main things I believe in are like human rights, democracy, freedom of speech, that kind of thing. I'm very anti-genocide and anti-racism, anti-ethnic cleansing, and anti-war, basically. All right. So
Perfect.
yeah. So the reason I was a bit surprised by your Israel-Palestine stance is because you are a bit of a white nationalist, is what as far as I understand.
Correct.
And
Yes.
almost every single white nationalist is very anti-Israel because most white nationalists hate Jews as much as they hate black people. So therefore, they don't really
Correct.
like Israel. So can you
I mean,
explain why you are a
mhm.
white nationalist but you support Israel?
Well, I'll say that there's other white nationalists which have similar beliefs to me. I'd say Captive Dreamer on Twitter, of course. I'd say Jared Taylor, slightly. He's slightly philo-Semitic, but I support Israel mainly because it is the main place where Jews deserve to be, right? Jews are foreigners to America, they're foreigners to Europe, they're foreigners to Asia. So it is natural for them to be in their own homeland, and I see nothing wrong if they want to be there, right? If they want to go back, I see absolutely nothing wrong with that. And they're going to fight against Islam, which is like a little cherry on top. We didn't even ask for that. They're just doing that for us. They're fighting against the third world. They're fighting against Iran. They're fighting against our enemies in the Middle East. And I see no reason why we should not endorse that, right?
Okay, so you identify as a Zionist, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so do you would you say you mainly support Israel because you think the Jewish people have like they're in danger and they have a right to defend themselves and it's good for them to defend themselves and have their home? Or do you more support Israel because it's like, oh, there's a place that all the Jews can go to leave America and there's a place that can fight the Muslims for us? Like, what would you say is more your
Right,
reason
right.
for supporting?
I mean, I'd have to say it's more like the second one, right? The second thing that you described. But I
Okay.
do think that they do have a certain degree of self determination in Israel.
Okay. Um,
Right.
so is that all you done?
Yeah, that's all I'd say. You
Okay.
can like ask your questions.
Sorry.
Oh no, you can go ahead.
Okay. So what's your opinion on the Palestinians? Like, do you think they should be allowed to have their own country as well, or should it all just be Israel?
Well, my stance on Palestine is, of course, pro-Israeli. It is a one-state solution because Palestine is essentially historically Jewish land. It is historically the land in which Jews inhabited in the biblical times, in times of Abraham, right, and Jesus and everything. There was no Palestinian people ever in history. They were just Arabs.
Okay, so there's quite a few things I disagree with. I'm not sure where to start.
Right,
I
right,
I guess like the main thing I'd say why I'm against a one state solution or against Israel controlling all the land is that historically when Israel governs the Palestinians, they don't treat them very well at all. Like in the West Bank, they're almost every day where Palestinian civilians are getting
right.
killed. So why should the Palestinians, in your view, have to put up with that? Put up with pretty oppressive Israeli rule?
Well, because Palestine supports Hamas, right? All Gazans support Hamas. All Gazans are future terrorists. And I see no reason why Israel should not destroy the terrorists of the future. I see no reason why they should not do that if Palestine has constantly threatened their right to exist. Historically, just historically speaking, Arabs, Palestinians, and other Muslim states near Israel have historically attacked first, right, in 1948 in the Yom Kippur War. So Israel has been naturally a defensive state against Arabic imperialism, so to speak. And I know that Palestinians are not treated well, but if you support a terrorist that wants to kill every Israeli, I don't see why Israel should have any sympathy for you, honestly.
Okay, so one of the problems I have with this framing is it sounds like you're suggesting the majority of Palestinians are terrorists or potential terrorists.
Correct?
Do you think they're all terrorists, or are
They're
they?
all either terrorists or potential ones. So Um, so what Israel's doing right now in Gaza, of course, they're killing civilians, right? They're killing children, they're killing women, but those children will grow up to become the future Hamas. If Palestinians are left to have a free state, Palestinians cannot handle that free state as they attack Israel whenever they get a free state.
I have quite a problem with labeling children as future or potential terrorists because I mean, any child has the
Mhm.
potential to one day be a violent person. I mean, even white children, they have the potential to be school shooters. But I wouldn't say like,
Correct.
oh, let's kill white children because they might become school shooters, you know? So
Yeah.
why should Palestinian children be viewed as future terrorists when we don't view like white children or other children that way,
Well, let me ask you
or
this.
Jewish
Is
children?
there a white, is there like a white terrorist organization in America with thousands of members of white children, right? Teenagers that want to
Mm.
join that. Teenagers, of course not, right? There's no terrorist group here. There's no terrorist group in the EU that has thousands of white children joining it. Unlike Hamas, which does have thousands of people that are joining it right now, thousands of people that are in Hamas and thousands of people in the future that would love to join that would love to fight against Israel, that would love to kill Jews. And we've seen that Hamas, on, of course, October 7th, 2023, cannot handle um, independence, right? Palestinians hate Israel so much, they're willing to attack first, they're willing to rape, they're willing to kill. And I see no reason why Israel should not take precaution against that and not exterminate the children, right? But just ensure that they do not live in that land to harm the Jewish people.
So you mentioned that there's thousands of like people in Hamas. You said there's thousands of children in Hamas. I haven't seen evidence of that, but even if there are, like let's say, even if there are thousands of
No, no,
Pal-
no. I meant like teenagers. I meant like
thousands of
people, like
teenagers, yeah.
children that will grow up to be teenagers.
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't personally seen evidence of that, but like even if it is true, let's assume there are thousands
All
of
right.
teenagers, Palestinian teenagers who want to join Hamas. That's still a very small minority of the Palestinian
Correct.
population. So I agree, like Hamas is bad, and people who want to join Hamas
Right.
and like wage war on all Jews, like that's very bad. But you mentioned it's thousands of people, but remember there's about 2 million Palestinians in Gaza.
Correct.
About a million of them are children. So why should they all be viewed collectively as terrorists when it's really just a few thousand who are members or aspiring members?
Right. Well, I know it's a minority, right? The minority is Hamas, but remember the Palestinian people chose Hamas. They voted for Hamas instead of the was it the Palestinian Liberation um, something, but they essentially
Fatah, yeah.
voted for Hamas.
Uh,
Sorry. They voted for Hamas, right? The Palestinian people voted for Hamas because they endorsed that, even if they did not participate in the organization itself. And we've seen that Arabs generally, like in 1948, of course, hate Israel so much that they're willing to really do anything just to kill Israelis.
So, an issue I have with citing the that election from 2006 in Gaza is that, for
Yes,
one, I mean, that election was like 20 years ago, and we've got a different set. The people who are alive in Palestine now aren't necessarily the same people who are around back then. Like half the
sure.
population of Gaza was born after that election, so we can't really like blame them for that election. But another thing I want to mention is, like, with that election, I'm pretty sure Hamas won like 44% of the vote roughly, and then another 44% roughly was Fatah, or voted for Fatah, which is the more moderate
Right,
like
Fata.
party. So can we
Mm-hmm.
really say that most Palestinians, or can we really say that, oh, the Palestinians in general, they support Hamas or they elected Hamas, when it was really like 40% of the population, and it was also an election that happened like 2 decades ago?
Well, correct. It was a minority of the population, so to speak, but I'm just speaking about not only the election, but the general support of Hamas in the Strip, the spiritual support that it receives from other governments, such as Iran as well. Um, Palestinians now, even though they have not voted for Hamas, they are likely to either join Hamas in the future or simply be anti-Israeli. And we can clearly see that just the presence of Hamas means that Israel must completely clean out Hamas. And what Israel's doing right now is to annex Gaza just to clean out Hamas. They're not trying to commit genocide. They're not trying to kill all Palestinians. They just want to end a terrorist organization.
Okay, so there's a few things I disagree with that. What I want to ask you about
Right.
is, like, what's your opinion on Fatah, which is the moderate Palestinian party that governs the West Bank? Like, do you think, like,
Mm-hmm.
what's your opinion on Gazans who support Fatah? Like, are they also bad? Do you think Fatah should maybe be allowed to govern Gaza instead? Like, what's your view on Fatah or the PLO?
Correct. The PLO, I view it negatively, simply because I believe that Gaza is historically Jewish. It is historically for the Jewish people. And the Palestinian identity only existed after 1964, where all the Jordanians who lived to the west, they were now given Palestinian citizenship, and they were told that they were now Palestinians, right? Because we can see that Palestinian culture has not existed in history, right? They claim to be from the Philistines. However, the Philistines are a people of Greek descent, which are not represented as the current Palestinians right now. So we can see that even if a moderate Arab party is elected to govern Gaza, right, to govern the West Bank, that does not mean that Israel should not take the precaution of fully taking Gaza or fully taking the West Bank to ensure 100% that there is never another October 7th, that there is never another threat to the Jewish people.
Okay, so do you think that if Israel annexes the West Bank and Gaza Strip, should Palestinians have equal rights as Jews in Israel, or do you think that they should be like second class citizens?
I think they should be moved completely. I think all of the
So where
Arabs
to?
in Israel, all the Arab citizens that have Israeli citizenship, should also be removed from the country, because Israel was meant to be a land for Jews. It was meant to be a land for solely the Jewish people and not Arabs, of course. I see no reason why the stronger force that is more developed, that believes in democracy, that believes in human rights and everything, um, cannot defeat Islamism, or I mean, cannot disband it in Gaza and the West Bank.
Um, okay, so why don't you think there should just be Palestinians and Jews just living together in the same country? Because the Palestinians were ultimately born there, and like that's their
Right.
home. So shouldn't people be allowed to live in the country where they were born in and where they grew up in?
Well, I mean, just because you're born in a country doesn't mean that that country is yours, right? We see this not only in Israel and Palestine, but we see this in Europe, for example, in America. A lot of the people that were born there aren't true Americans or aren't true Europeans. And using that example, we can see that any Arab in Israel clearly should not be there. Every Palestinian in Gaza should not be there. Instead, Jewish settlements should be made to improve the land, to have better education, better infrastructure, better everything, essentially, to truly improve the nation. And Palestinians can be moved anywhere else. They can be moved to Jordan. That is their home, after all. They can be moved to South Sudan, for all I care.
So and you mentioned that like someone might be born in America, but you don't think that necessarily makes
Correct.
them American because maybe their
Correct.
parents were illegal immigrants or whatever. But with Palestinians,
Yes.
for example, like their ancestors have been there for hundreds of years. So it's not really the same as someone who was just born here, but their parents were born somewhere else. Like Palestinians
Well, let
have
me ask you
been there
this.
for a very, very
Is there
long
any
time.
ancient Palestinian state, right? We can see that there is a
Mm.
kingdom of Israel. There was an ancient biblical kingdom of Israel, but there was no ancient kingdom of Palestine. There was never a Palestinian state. The Palestinian identity, as I said before, emerged in 1964 with all the Jordanians, right, and all the Arabs that lived in that area that were to be that were to stay there, that were now to be called Palestinians as a way to delegitimize the existence of Israel as a historically Jewish territory.
So, is your sort of belief that because the Jews were there first, or the Jews lived there before Palestinians lived there, that that means that Jews should be the only people who are allowed to live there?
Well, let me say this. My theory of who owns land, and just in general for all humans, is the person that conquers the land, the person that settles the land, the person that develops the land, is the person that has the right to own that land, right? I mean, if we say that just because the Palestinians were there first, right? Let's say the Palestinians were there first, that doesn't mean the land is theirs. I mean, we can say that American Indians were in America first, and so that means that white Americans have no right to be there, so they should just give up the entire U.S. to American Indians. And I don't think that's right. I think the person, the group that developed the land, the group that conquered the land, the group that um, settled the land is the group that deserves to be there. And we can see that Jews are that group. Jews are the group which saw Israel in 1948. They went there in the 40s, right? They went there in the 50s, and they developed it into the strongest nation of the Middle East, a small country of, what is it, 8 million, 9 million people. They
Yeah.
developed it into a rich economic powerhouse of the Middle East in contrast to every other nation around it. Right? I believe in social Darwinism. I believe in the strong taking land.
Um, okay, so yeah, my perspective on that kind of thing is just completely different. So I'll explain what my perspective is, and
Right,
then can you
right,
tell me what you think? So my general belief is that like I don't think a land or a country or a territory should belong to a specific ethnic group. I think, in my opinion, it should just belong to everyone who lives there. Because people don't choose what country they're born in. Um, and I feel
right.
like everyone who's born in a country and grows up in that country and they feel a connection to that land, like they don't necessarily feel a connection to their ancestral homeland, I feel like it's wrong to
Sure.
force them out of that land or to give them fewer rights than other people in that land just because, oh, well, your ancestors came from somewhere else, so your life has to be just forever subjugated. Um, because of how you were born. Like that's my
Well, I don't
perspective.
think their life should be made worse. Well, right. I don't think their life should be made to make them out to be second-class citizens, right? I just think that they should be able to live in their own land and be able to develop that land. I believe that, and the reason for my beliefs is that we can see that throughout history, homogenous societies have generally been stronger and better than multicultural ones, right?
What's your opinion on Arabs who live in Israel or who live in the West Bank and Gaza, who like they they're not anti-Semitic, and even if you think the majority are,
Right.
like the ones who aren't anti-Semitic and they just want peace with Israel and like they want to live side by side with their whatever Jewish fellow citizens, like shouldn't they be allowed to stay because they want to coexist peacefully? Like those individuals.
Right. I understand your question. Um, when you really think about it, how Arabs have lived in Israel over the years, they had created the party, the United Arab List, and Arabs continue to weaken Israel. They continue to push for peace, or for Israel to not expand itself, or for Israel to care more about human rights than the lives of its own soldiers, right? For Israel to feed the Palestinian citizens in Gaza. So I think that Israel, as many Jewish people want it to be a state for Jews only. They want it to be a state where they can truly have that form of Zionism that truly is close to biblical Israel, where the Israelites were all in one nation, where the Israelites fought collectively against their enemies. And if you think about it, racism could never exist in Israel if there were only Jews, correct? There can never be a form of anti-Arabism domestically, and Arabs and Jews would never have to fight in Israel, right? Arabs with Israeli citizenship would not have to hate Jews.
Okay, so you're saying that the if we have only Jews in Israel, no Arabs in Israel, there won't like be racism because there's only one ethnic group in that country. But the thing is, in my opinion, like ethnic cleansing is racism, like forcing people out because of their
Right.
ethnicity. So in my opinion, like deporting all the Arabs would be racism. So are you in
Right, but if it makes the country better, isn't that a good thing? If it makes Israel better, if it makes it more united,
well, it might make it better for Israel, but it won't make it better for the
right?
Arabs. So that's the
But you
thing.
see,
Like,
that's the thing. The point of a nation is to put their own people first. Israel must put Jews first. They must not put Arabs first. And so that means doing whatever it takes to ensure that that land stays Jewish, that that land stays safe, that land can truly grow to greatness.
Um, okay, yeah, so I just disagree. I'm not sure what
All
more I
right.
can do to really convince you. But yeah, I just disagree in general. So we can
Right.
move on to a different topic now. Are you cool with doing like World War II, fascism, that stuff next?
Yeah.
Okay, so before we're talking about the Nazis and World War II, I first want to just talk about fascism in general. So, do you say you identify as a fascist?
Correct.
Okay, so and how do you because everyone has their own definition of fascism, obviously, but how do you define
hmm
fascism and why do you support it?
Okay. I define fascism economically as corporatism, right? As a merger of state and corporate power. And we see that fascism is essentially embedded in authoritarianism. It is embedded into being very militaristic. It is embedded into being very nationalistic, right? An extreme form of nationalism. And I don't solely identify as a fascist because fascism, of course, doesn't equal racism. Doesn't mean that you inherently have to be a white supremacist or anything else like that. It just simply means that you have a strong central government, a an economy that reduces class conflict through corporatism, and a nation that is essentially driven by an extreme nationalism. Now, I am a fascist because I see that America's problems could be solved through a form of right-wing authoritarianism, right? And I say that fascism is the best thing at doing that, as we have seen historical examples of fascism succeeding in Italy, such as when Mussolini completely rid the nation of the mafia, and then after the war, the mafia returned to Italy.
Okay, so with Mussolini, so supporting Hitler is obviously like the most controversial thing basically you can do in the West, or probably supporting Israel is
Yep.
more controversial nowadays. But s- supporting Mussolini is it's controversial, but it won't get everyone like attacking you with pitchforks. It's like not super controversial
Right.
to support Mussolini. But the thing is, like, I really, really don't like Mussolini at all. So I'll explain why I don't like him. Um, like in general, I don't like dictators. Like he obviously established a one-party state, and I just don't think that's right because you're denying people the right to basically vote and have the government of their choice, the party that they want in power. And then just quickly, the other thing, the main reasons I dislike Mussolini was that he went to war with multiple countries and he seized land from multiple
Right.
countries and killed many civilians. I mean, most people don't really know about the wars he did or the killings he did, but
Right. But in Libya and Ethiopia, right,
Libya,
he killed
Ethiopia,
100,000 Libyans and
yeah.
about
So
700,000 Ethiopians,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So because of all those mass killings that fascist Italy did, I find it like impossible to even consider supporting a country that kills that many civilians. So
Right.
because because obviously it's clear you don't deny those mass killings. So
No.
how come you know that the fascists did all those mass killings, but you still support them? Can you explain that?
Sure. Number one, every nation has committed mass killings. Every ideology has committed mass killings. Democracies and communism, right, and communist nations have killed more people than fascist nations, even if you combine Hitler, Mussolini, Hirohito, right, all of that. And if you truly think about it, in the time that Mussolini was dictator, the British Empire, the French Empire, right, the Belgian Empire, the Western Allies killed millions more than Hitler or Mussolini or Japan could ever have. So if you truly want to be in anti-genocide position, right, in a position of pro-civilian life, right, pro-human life, you have to realize that ethically speaking, fascist nations like Italy killed less people than the British or the French, even at that contemporary era. Right? We see the Bengal famine in India, for example, caused by Churchill. We see that he killed millions of Indians, right? So that's more than Mussolini could ever have. So if you want to take that morally ethical position, you have to admit that Italy was not only more moral than Britain or France or Belgium, but you have to support it if you truly want to be pro-human life, I'd say.
So yeah, so I completely disagree. So I don't judge how good a country is by saying like, oh well, that country killed more. Like Stalin obviously killed more people than Mussolini did.
Correct.
My position wouldn't be like, oh, because Stalin killed more, therefore I support Mussolini because he's like whatever the lesser of two evils. My stance would just be I hate them both and I don't support either of them. So
Well, then you
um,
couldn't say that. Well, hold on. Well, hold on. You couldn't say that you hate Mussolini because he killed people, right? Unless you admit that you would hate Britain too at that time. You would hate France too at that time. You would hate Belgium, Germany, right? America. You'd have to hate like the whole world at that time. In a time where imperialism was the norm, a time where expansion was seen as something normal for a country to do.
so I know it was seen in those days, probably it was just seen as the norm or it was seen as good. But obviously we live in a
Correct.
different time, so what you're advocating is for that we have the same principles that they had in those days. So like nowadays, generally the belief in the West is genocide is bad, war is bad. In those days they thought like no, imperialism is good. And it sounds like you're saying we should sort of return to that mindset of those days, like where we
Hold on.
think
Yes, yes, yes,
imperialism
yes.
is good.
But I think in America, right? Hold on. I think in
Yeah, yeah.
America, the war is bad thing is not really true, right? If we examine the Great War on Terror, we examine the Vietnam Wars, right? American
Okay, yeah.
interventions all over the world, we see that in America, war is standard. In America, war is simply natural for the government to do. So I'm simply saying that we continue that form of American interventionism to benefit the whole world, to promote peace, right? Peace through strength. We topple communism. We topple Islam. we topple ideologies that have been generally destructive to humanity, and we instead replace them with a form of Americanism.
So, okay, so what I saw on your account is this is just a side point. I don't want to like talk too much about this, but I saw on your account it sounds
That's
like
fine.
you're pro the Iraq War and like you support George W. Bush.
Yeah,
So
correct.
that's probably like the third most controversial opinion you can have in America. Like after supporting Israel,
I
after
know, right?
supporting Nazi Germany, it's probably like supporting the Iraq War. It is a bit surprising. I mean, I don't know if you
Hey, I
want
like all three.
to you like all three. Damn. Okay. So yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the Iraq War. So with the sort of imperialist mindset, when I said like in America we perceive war as bad, what I meant, I should have said it a different way. What I meant is that like mainstream norm ordinary people, like I don't mean like the American government, but like most people are generally against the idea of war and genocide, I think, or at least most people in the West. So that's what I was meaning when like now,
Oh, okay.
yeah, like
All right.
nowadays our perspective in I can only really speak for the West and South Africa where I live, which is it's like
Right.
kind of westernized. But the general perspective in like where I live and in Europe and the West, the general perspective among most people is war is bad, genocide is bad, imperialism is bad. We shouldn't do it. We should live in peace and we should treat everyone equally. But you sort of are against that mindset and you prefer like more of a
Well, you see, the
Mussolini
reason I'm against
mindset.
that mindset,
Sorry?
well, hold on, yes. The reason I'm against that mindset is simply because I want to put the American people first. To put the American people first means to do things that are essentially in advocacy of the people, which our founders wanted the nation to be for, right? The founders wanted a white nation. They would have wanted an ethnostate. They would have wanted a nation where white Americans are promoting peace around the world, right? I mean, we can see that in the Naturalization Act of 1790, that that they clearly wanted to restrict immigration to free white persons only. And I'm sure you could agree with this that the founders of America were racist, were
Yeah.
white nationalists,
Yeah.
and were white supremacists, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So I'm saying that we should just continue. We should bring back America to its roots to truly benefit the people, the country.
So I kind of disagree with the when people appeal to tradition or appeal to history, like, oh, that's how it used to
Right.
be. So that's good because that's what it used to be. So we should bring that back
Hmm.
because there's many things that we used to do, like most notably slavery, which I mean that was traditionally a thing that every human society had for hundreds or thousands of years. But most
Right.
people in the world now understand like slavery is bad. So don't you think that just because that's how things used to be, like America used to be like a racist white nationalist country, doesn't mean that's necessarily the right way to do it?
Well, no, no, no. I'm not saying that we should do it because it was in the past. I'm
Okay,
saying that we should do it because not only was it in the past, but it benefited the people of the past. It benefited the white American man. And if I'm saying if we implemented this in the modern
okay,
day, it would cause, it would essentially make it so that there was no housing crisis in America, right? It would lower prices. It would control inflation, all of that. It would essentially help the white American birth rate as well, right? Because the birth rate here in America is not, it's not that good. So if we implemented these things, it would bring all of that back. That's my theory essentially.
okay. So the reason
Yes,
I'm
yes.
against, oh, are you done? Sorry.
I'm done.
Okay. So the reason I'm against nationalism in general is, I mean, it's often portrayed as we're putting our country first or we're advancing the interests of our people. But the reason I have a problem
Yes.
with it is that nationalism generally involves helping your own people, but at the cost of other people, such as like either deporting them or killing them or sometimes enslaving them or denying them the right to vote. So that kind of thing is like why I'm against nationalism because it sounds very nice, like, oh, we're going to help our people. Like, obviously, that sounds good. Like, let's help our people. But it usually,
Yeah.
like nationalism, fascism, that kind of stuff, it usually involves we have to subjugate or oppress the other people in some way. So don't you see that as a problem, like in America, for example, to treat black people or whoever else worse or with fewer rights or whatever, just to benefit white people?
Right. Well, I think that every race has the right to be nationalistic. Every race has the right to be pro-fascism. Every right has the race to want to improve their own nation. So, I believe that if we were to send every Black American back to Africa, right, to Liberia or to any African country, that would actually benefit Africa because we would have these people that are smarter than typical African, that obviously are more intellectually superior, people that know how to produce better than the Africans there. So if we were to even do that, it would actually improve Africa as well. So I'm just saying that we need to help our own people, and even if it's at the cost of other people, those other people have the right to help themselves as well, right? They have the right to be nationalistic, so they have the right to say, I hate white people. I want Africa to be fully black. I don't want a single foreigner in Africa. And I think that is fully natural for every race, truly.
So I get the problem that I have with that is that it really restricts people's rights to like choose or to make their own choices. Um, because like if white people want to live here or if black people want to live here, it's like they should be told no because this place is reserved for this race. Like I don't know, it just sounds like you're restricting people's freedom, don't you think?
You're right, it is restricting freedom technically. However, is that the benefit of the people of the nation? If you are to restrict something, for example, let's say you're restricting pornography in America, and that's going to benefit the youth. It's going to make the youth want to have a higher birth rate. It's going to make them want to go out more in society. It's going to essentially promote a better youth. Why shouldn't we do that? Why shouldn't we restrict freedoms to protect our own? Right. This also goes with the Patriot Act that George Bush passed. Right. The Anti-Terrorism Act. Right.
Do you support that?
Surveillance and everything. I do support it. I
Yeah,
do support government
most Americans
surveillance
do
to
not support that at all.
protect.
Um,
Yeah. No.
okay, so my main issue, I guess, with nationalism, I mean, I don't have an enormous problem with a country wanting to restrict immigration from other countries. Like, I think that should be the choice of that country, like who you let in. But I have
Right.
the
Well,
main
I want to
reason.
end it as well.
Sorry,
Or I want to end immigration, all immigration.
even from white countries.
Well, okay. Not from white countries, just.
Yeah, I knew it. Um, okay, so yeah, the main issue I have is not like restricting immigration. The main issue I have with sort of ethnostate or ethnic purity or whatever is that people will be deported against their will. So I know the
Right,
nationalists will often sort of paint like a pretty image of, oh, everyone lives in their homeland and it's so nice, like the white people get to live here and develop their community, black people get to live there, develop their community. But what's not mentioned
correct.
is like the fact that black people living in America, born in America, like they don't want to leave. So like you're gonna be forcing them against their will to move to an African country that, I mean, they don't want to live in. They prefer to live in America where they grew up.
Right,
And it's like you'd have to be very brutal and have to force them out. I mean, some might move by their own choice, but I'm sure the majority, like, you'd have to force out. So is that really something that should be done, like forcing black people out of America?
I mean, essentially, forcing blacks out of America would, I'm sure Africans would support it too because it would benefit Africa. But just like we can force them out of here because it is our homeland that we developed, that we built, right? Whites built America. I do not believe that my ancestors built this nation with the intention of giving it away to anyone else, whether they be black, Mexican, Chinese, or anything else. I believe that my ancestors created this nation for the white American man. And I believe that Africans can say that in their African countries that their ancestors lived in Africa and they did not live in it with the intention of giving it away to anyone else, whether it be Europeans, whether it be Asians, whether it be any other group, truly. So So nationalism, it's really just about everyone living in their own homeland, and even if that's cruel, it in the ends justify the means.
Um, but the thing is, just I mean, I have sort of asked it, but I just want to ask it again. Like, what about the fact that black people like don't want to leave? Like, isn't
Right,
that
right.
isn't that like a terrible thing to do to black men and black women and black children? Like, forcing them to leave when they don't want to leave. Um, isn't that like kind of cruel?
Well, you're right, it is cruel, but I believe it to be justified, right? I believe it to be justified because we have the right to do that. We have the right to choose who gets to live in our country. We have the right to choose who can't live in our country. And if you want to help your own, why wouldn't you help your own at the cost of others, right? It's a selfish thing to believe, but if you want to have a successful nation, you have to put your own people first. And even if it is cruel, if it's going to benefit Africa, if it's going to benefit America, why can't we do it? If they can do it in their countries, we should be able to do it in ours.
So, like you said, it'll benefit Africa. You say it'll benefit America, but the thing is, will it benefit Black Americans? Like, I mean, I'm sure the white people in America might be happy that there's no more black people. Possibly the African
Correct.
countries will be happy that they have like a more educated workforce coming in. But
Yes.
would it be better for black Americans though, who like don't want to leave? Like,
No.
would it be better
No. I,
than
I
to be
think
in
they
Africa?
right. I think they want to stay here in America, but I also think that because so many other people don't want them to stay here, and because the people that built America don't want them to stay here, I see that those people have the right to expel them to benefit both Black Africans and white Americans. And hold on, I know it can be cruel, right, to say that you're just going to strip these children away from their homeland that they've lived in for hundreds of years, but sometimes you have to realize that in the ends do actually justify the means, right? If it's going to create a better Africa, a better America, why can't we do it?
Yeah, the main reason I think we can't do it, because I mean, you listed two supposed positives, like it benefit America, benefit Africa. The main problem with me is that it
Yes,
violates the rights of the Black Americans. So I mean, their lives will
correct,
probably get worse if they move to Africa, just because there's like um, worse healthcare, worse housing, that kind of stuff. So it's like their lives
correct.
will
Well,
become worse, but you're like fine with that happening, basically.
well, when whites from Europe went to the New World, their lives became significantly worse. But they were able to develop the New World into a superpower, right? The United States is a superpower. So I would say that even if they go there involuntarily, if they are going to go to Africa, it will be to the benefit of their own people ultimately. I believe that Africa will ultimately be better if Black Americans were to go there than if they were to just stay here in the U.S., of course.
Um, So, well, a bit of a difference with the white settlers who moved to America is, as far as I'm aware, they weren't forced to go, whereas the black people in the
Well,
scenario,
hold on. Well, actually,
oh,
sometimes they were,
oh, were they?
because you know that they actually went to the New World, a lot of them, right? Because they were being persecuted for their religious beliefs in England, right? I don't
Okay.
believe it was the Puritans or someone else, but
Mm.
they were being persecuted in Europe, the Old World. So that is why a lot of them had to go to the New World in America.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't. It would justify persecuting black people in order to get them to move away, and I don't think persecution is necessary in our world. I think we can live in a world. I think America can be a country where everyone succeeds, but just like in a multiracial country. I don't think the only way to improve the lives of white Americans is to like kick out all of the non-white people. Like, don't can you envision a scenario where America's a successful country and everyone's happy, but you've still got like tens of millions of black people and tens of millions of Latinos? Like, do you?
Allow me to say this.
Yeah.
Ever since America started being less white, the country definitely got worse. The country, like prices are going up right now here in America. It's just something that's been going on for decades. And truly, If we continue as we are right now, whites in America, the people that built the land, that developed the land, that settled the land, are going to be a minority in their own country, right? We won't be able to control our own destiny. We won't be able to control what happens to us. And I'm sure, as you see in South Africa, when minority groups, right, when blacks get a hold of South Africa, they start persecuting whites, right? I mean, you see this with Julius Malema, for example. He says, kill the Boer, right? He wants to kill white people in South Africa. So if minority groups were to truly take over America, truly take over our government, right, our institutions, our companies, what else can we do to control our own destiny? I mean, that it would require essentially a full-on replacement of white Americans, right? That's what's going on right now, replacement of the white race in America.
So do you think it's inevitable that if white people become a minority, that they will be persecuted?
Correct.
So I mean, I personally just disagree with that because as far as I'm aware, the majority of, I mean, I'm sure you'll disagree. As far as I'm aware, the majority of Black Americans like aren't racist against white people, and as far as I'm aware, the majority of Asian Americans and Latino Americans aren't racist against white people. I know some are, but I feel like even if they become the majority, I think the majority of the non-white people, I think the majority of them are inclusive and like white people are our friends or whatever. So because of that, I don't think that if America becomes minority white, like white people will be persecuted. What do you think about that?
All right, well, hold on. Let's go
Yeah.
with your vision right here. Let's say that America becomes a minority white state and white people are not persecuted, okay? They're treated as equal
Yeah.
citizens. That will still mean that we can't control our own destiny. That would still mean um, that the founders who built this country would have to reflect and they would see that what they envisioned as a white nation is now a multiracial nation the in which life is generally declining. We see that life here in America is generally declining. We see that prices are increasing. We see that um, life is just not going as well. We see that violent crime is more prevalent. We see that racism is more prevalent, honestly. Discrimination is more prevalent. And honestly, I believe that racism is inherent in humans. I mean, it is impossible to make humans never be racist against each other. So why can't we embrace that?
So I want to briefly mention like the prices, that kind of thing. I don't know much about economics, so I don't want to have a big economic discussion. But I mean, my understanding is that the reason the quality of life is getting worse is not because of like non-white people. My understanding is that it's because of what rich people are doing to America. Like they won't increase the wages of the workers. They want to cut taxes for the rich, that kind of thing. Um, and they raise the prices of the products that they sell, but they don't want to raise the wages
Right.
of workers, and they want to raise the prices of like housing. So don't you think it's more the rich who are causing the quality of life to decline and not the black people and Latino people?
Well, you know, it's funny. I think that both the elites who control America, like the people who truly control America, right? The elites and
Are you going to say the
their
Jews?
weapons. What?
The Jews, do you think?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that that the elites of America, like if there is an Illuminati here in America, right? If there is a cabal of globalistic people that want to destroy the white race in America, they are disproportionately Jewish. Now, that is not to say that I hate Jews, but it is just to say that if we were to send Jews out as well, it would also benefit white Americans, right? I mean, we see that Jews are disproportionately just in American positions of power, right? It's because they study and they work hard, right? They're a successful minority.
Yeah.
But,
So what's the problem with that? Is you know?
well, right, just that I think that foreigners as a whole should not be in this country when they are working against the American state, right? I know there's many Israelis that promote, for example, Palestinians or other migrants to go to the West. So I think those people are the enemy as well. And I think that most Jews in America are pro-democrat, right? They're pro-liberal, they're
Yeah.
pro-white replacement, they're pro-swarming the country with mass amounts of browns, right? Black people and everything else, right? Immigrants in general. And um, and I don't think I want them here in America either. I mean, I hate the elites. I hate the people that are funding um, migrants to come to the West. I hate the people that are destroying the West, them physically being the migrants themselves. And I'm just saying that, well, when you say rich people, if you want to be more accurate, you could say globalistic people who are predominantly Jewish.
The thing is, I think feel like a large portion of the rich people in America are like not white, not Jewish. I mean, like a lot of them are Christian or atheist. So
Right.
I
Well,
don't
no,
really,
I mean, when I say Jewish, I don't mean religiously only, I mean ethnically as well, right?
yeah.
We can think that someone like Sam Altman, right, the founder of ChatGPT, he's Jewish, for example, even though I believe he is religiously secular or just religiously something else. My
Mm.
point is, if we were to expel all the foreigners, if we were to nationalize the American cities more, if we were to essentially have more government intervention to ensure that the economy stays to serve the American people, right? If we were to essentially ensure that the land of America would not be sold off to foreigners, I think just all of that would benefit the country. And the evidence I'm going to use for this is that in the past, for example, under the Andrew Jackson era here in America, when he fought against the central banks, when he essentially made it so that a federal bank would not be here in America, inflation was extremely low. And then when the federal bank was created in 1913 by Woodrow Wilson, the inflation just rose, right? When Nixon abandoned the gold standard, inflation rose in America. And it's been like this for years. And it's something that's a cause of foreign involvement in America, both Jewish and colored, I'd have to say.
So this is something that I disagree with, just how generally like white nationalists frame. So I don't want to put words in your mouth. So do you believe that black people in America and Jewish people in America, who are born in America, do you see them as foreigners, even if they're born in America?
Yes. Well, that's what I refer to when I say foreigners, just so you know. I refer to them as well.
So do you think it's impossible for like a black person or a Jewish person to integrate fully into America and be like a true American?
Honestly, I'm going to say yes. And I'm also going to say that if you want to call me anti Semitic for saying that Jews can't be Americans, right? I'm going to say that Theodor Herzl, right, in The Jewish State, in his book, he wrote that Jews living in Gentile societies inherently cause anti-Semitism and is inherently impossible for Jews to assimilate to Gentile culture. And so that is why Israel exists, to go back to the homeland, because that is where Jews belong. They do not belong in our country, right? Not a single Jew belongs in America.
So in what way are they not like integrated?
American.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Well, culturally, Jews could be American, right? Culturally, black people could be American, but
So if not
when I say
culturally,
being
then in what
American,
way aren't they American?
well, racially, right? If we go back to their lineage, for example, they don't have that founding stock blood. They don't have that. They don't have that quality of being white, which the founders intentionally built America for. I mean, I'm sure you could agree that George Washington, right, Jefferson, they built America with the intention of being for white people. They built it with the intention of it being for the white man, essentially. Correct?
I mean, I guess yeah, that's what they built it for.
Exactly. So
I
I'm
just
just
don't
saying
think
that
it
we
was
could turn to
correct of
that,
them to do that.
especially if it's going to benefit us.
Um, I don't want to. I know this might sound like a an unfair or gotcha question, but I'm just wondering because like you sound like you support the founding fathers. I'm not trying to like catch you out. I'm just curious. But like, do you think they were wrong in their support of slavery?
All right. Well, I see what you mean. Okay. First of all, I think that slavery in America wasn't an issue, but I think that freeing them in America was, and I do think that we should have progressed. Like we should progress to get rid of slavery earlier, but only if we had a plan to remigrate them back to their homeland, right? And the founding fathers, like you said, they were big pro-slavery. They were
Yeah.
massively pro-slavery, and I'm, I'm, and I still don't hate them, right? And I still think that they were right. in their time, and I'd say that they were right to be pro-slavery at that time where slavery was the norm, right? Not only in the West, but in the world as well.
Okay, so you mentioned, so I might have misunderstood. So you said slavery wasn't a problem, but ending slavery was. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
So why was it a problem to end slavery?
Well, ending slavery and integrating them into society was a problem because you have these people that are that hate white people, right? Because white people beat them, right? White people like
Yeah, I think
stole
they're
them
kind
from
of
Africa,
justified at the time.
right? So that's why, for example, the Ku Klux Klan was created in American South. It was to defend whites from blacks that were committing crimes. I mean, we can see that clearly because they are free now, they are not coexisting with us peacefully, right? There is more black on white crime than white on black crime, right? I mean, I can bring up the statistic, right? Despite being 13% of the population, they are responsible for over 50% of all robberies and murders, as evidenced by FBI 2018 statistics, right? Table 43A. I remember that statistic. It's just to
Yeah,
show, it just goes to show that they are truly unable to integrate themselves into American society properly, right? They are inherently violent in
w-
American society. And
w-
this goes back to slavery as well. It goes back to the fact that we stole them from their homes, right? The fact that we beat them and everything. And I think that we really should have just remigrated them back to Africa if we were to end slavery.
okay, so there's many things I want to address there. I want to get to, so you said that like the 1350 number, like the 13% of the population commit 50% of the crime. So you then said this shows that black people like can't integrate, and it shows that black people are inherently violent, like if I heard correctly.
Correct.
So my problem with that is that, like, would you agree that so even though like I don't know what percentage of crime is committed by black people, but let's say I take what you said at face value, like you said the majority of the crime or 50% of the crimes committed by black people. So
Well,
if
violent crimes, violent
violent crimes,
crimes.
so that is, if that's true, but do you also agree that it's true that the majority of black Americans don't commit violent crime? Like, would you agree with that statement?
I'd have to say that yes, 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 because right, of course, women aren't going to commit violent crime as much, and the majority of them, I suppose, do integrate in terms of crime. But when you examine other statistics, such as food stamps, we can see that they disproportionately use food stamps, right? Same as Hispanics, they use food stamps more than white people do, for example, if we were to account them for their population. And even if they were to able to, if they even if they were able to integrate into American society fully, right? Let's say that they were perfect citizens, because of their trade of being foreigners who are actively working to, even if they don't know it, they are actively working to replace whites in America in order to
So
comply with the globalist agenda.
So why do you say that they're actively, like black people are actively working to whatever replace white people or harm white people? When you say black people are doing it, do you mean? Oh, there's another listener. When you say black people are actively doing it, do you mean all black people or the majority of black people or just some certain black people? Like, what do you mean when you say black people are actively doing this?
Every single one.
So every black person is actively working to replace white people.
Correct. And when I say actively working, it just means that they are. Wait, the other listener just left, but okay.
Oh, tragic.
Okay, I'm just saying that black people, even if they don't know it, because they are reproducing, right, more than white people are, eventually they would go to replace white people, honestly. I'm
But
going
they're
to
not
say
doing
this
that
but
with malicious intent, though.
right, I know, but I'm just going to say this, but black people aren't really the ones replacing white people too. I mean, the black population has been 13% for years, okay? The ones who are
Okay.
really replacing white people are more like Hispanic and Asian immigrants who are controlling exponentially. I mean, who are growing exponentially.
So, like Hispanic people, you see them as like replacing America, and um, so why do you see that as a problem? Just tell me, because I mean, like white nationalists are are you Christian? Are you Catholic? Or what's your religion?
No, I'm non-religious, honestly, I'd
Oh,
say.
okay. Because I was gonna throw a question, because often white nationalists are like Catholics, so I was gonna throw a question of like, oh well, Latinos are Catholic, so don't you want more Catholics? But I guess that doesn't apply to
Yeah,
you.
like Nick Fuentes, right?
Yeah, like Nick Fuentes. Yeah, you don't like Nick Fuentes, correct?
Correct.
And
I
why
can
is
explain why if you want.
yeah? Explain why. Because he seems like he believes all the same things you believe. So as far as I'm aware. So why do you disagree with
Okay,
him?
so I disagree with Nick Fuentes on three main things. The first one is race. The second one is American foreign policy slash Israel. The
Okay.
third one is a religion, I'd say. So, first of all, race. Nick Fuentes, he's more of a race realist, so to speak. He is not a white supremacist. He
Oh,
does not believe that whites are inherently superior to every other group collectively.
doesn't he? Oh,
Well, I do. So that's where I disagree with him on, right? Foreign policy. I think that Israel is our ally, right? I think Ukraine is our ally. I think that he is pretty Russophilic, that he actually likes Russia, um, and that he generally dislikes American interventionism, right? Like he would not want, like Vietnam War, for example, to be won by America because he would want America to completely retreat from Vietnam almost
and
immediately,
you're a
as
Vietnam
an
War
example.
supporter too, right? Unlike
Oh,
most
I'm South
Americans
Vietnam.
or South
I love
Vietnam.
South Vietnam.
Yeah, most Americans would are gonna kill you for that. But yeah, okay. So I see now why you don't like Nick Fuentes because um he's he doesn't he supports isolationism basically. He doesn't want to support Israel, and you
Correct.
want to support Israel. Other thing you said he wasn't a white supremacist. I'd assumed he was. So you said you are a white supremacist?
Correct.
So, what
Well,
do when you say that, do you just mean like they're superior in that like they developed better technology, or do you think that they're like biologically superior, like almost like a superhuman race or something?
okay. So when I say white supremacist, it means that collectively, as a group, that they have developed stronger civilizations. Okay, they have developed stronger technologies, inventions, and maybe it is a biological component, or maybe it isn't. But regardless, we still have seen throughout history a form of European domination over the rest of the world, for whatever reason may it be. And so that just proves social Darwinism, which is that the strong are inherently going to win over the weak. And so if you have European nations which dominated the world, is not fair to say that they are better than African nations, right? Or Asian nations, or anything else like that.
Okay, so you believe that they're superior because they like basically conquered the rest of the world and they developed greater technology, that kind of thing. So, I guess
Correct.
a cheeky question. So, if the East Asians, if they in the next 50 years or 100 years, if they overtake white people and they develop better technology and they manage to conquer the whole world, would you then think that East Asian people are the superior race, or do you still think white people are superior even if they get conquered and turned to the Stone Age by the East Asians?
Okay, yeah.
I know it's a very, very
Honestly,
hypothetical question, but I'm just interested.
okay. Well, just like Hitler, I'm a social Darwinist. So in this hypothetical scenario, I would have to agree. I would have to say that East Asians have proven their civilizational supremacy over Europeans. Now, I think that it is impossible to happen in the real world because
Sure.
when Europeans were homogenous, right, in the 1500s, right, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, we saw that they won over East Asians, right? We saw that Japan lost. We saw that China lost, right? The Chinese century of humiliation.
Yeah.
We saw that Europeans, when they do not have a foreign presence domestically, when they do not have an enemy within their own nations, that they do actually conquer the rest of the world, that they do actually win. But going back to your scenario, I would have to agree with that, yes.
Okay. So, so you're a white supremacist in that you think that like white people they're better or smarter or develop better things. But as part of your white supremacy, do you also think that white people have the right to, because historically what white supremacists believe, I don't know if you believe this, but historically what white supremacists believe is that because we're the superior race, it's fine if we genocide the Native Americans, it's fine if we enslave black people, that kind of thing. So as a white supremacist, do you also think white people have the right to like dominate or oppress or harm other races, or do you just want the races to be separate but without oppression, basically?
Okay, I get it. I get it. Um, this goes back to white supremacy, right? The core foundation of it is to be pro-colonialism. It is to be essentially imperialistic. So yes, I do agree that we have the right, as the strong and adaptable, to defeat the others, to conquer the others, to oppress the others. And you know, I believe that if the others were able to prove their civilizational supremacy by winning against us, they would have the right to conquer us. They would have the right to destroy us. So this just goes back to Hitler, right? Hitler during World War II, when the Reich was losing to Russia, right, the Soviet Union,
Yeah.
he began saying that, well, the Slavs, they've proven a form of civilizational supremacy
Did he
over the
really say
German people.
that?
So, that's why he ordered the destruction of Berlin. It was part of that because
That's
that was essentially his
crazy.
belief as a social Darwinist.
That's crazy.
See, you see, I'm a social Darwinist too, so I honestly believe that the strong and adaptable are going to be the winners in the end. And just like animals, we can drive other people to extinction and they can drive us to extinction. It just matters who. It just means that one has to be superior over the other, right?
So I don't really agree with looking at the world from the point of view of like survival of the fittest, and a certain race has to be on top, and we have to sort of conquer other people or be the dominant group. I feel like we can live in a world where everyone has equal rights, and where no one's invading each other, no one's bombing each other. Like, I don't think conquering or colonizing is good at all, because it just results in like death and suffering. So, I mean, white nationalists will often say that the colonialism was great because it's like, oh wow, look how strong we are, look how strong the white man is. We're able to conquer a quarter of the world. But I mean, I don't see
Correct.
colonialism in that positive light at all, because all I think of when I think of colonialism or imperialism is just all the people that get killed and enslaved or raped or like their homes burned down. So
Right.
don't you shouldn't we view imperialism from that lens of like you're brutally oppressing other people? Like, it does make white people stronger in a way, but is it worth it when it causes so much suffering to non-white people?
Well, I have to say that even if we do cause suffering, even if we do cause other races to maybe even go to extinction, right, or near extinction, that it is justified by survival of the fittest, right? I know that colonialism did cause a lot of death, right? Did cause a lot of suffering, right? There's a lot of rape. There's a lot of just general enslavement as well.
Yeah.
But every group has been imperialistic in history, right? We can see that Arabs, for example, right, Muslims too, have been imperialistic in the sense of conquering others, right? And taking Europeans, for example, as slaves, right? Taking Europeans as sex slaves. That's just an example. I'm using, but I think that we would live in a better world if America, right, was able to administer it. If we were able
The
to
entire
essentially
world.
collapse, right, the entire world. Like I'm just saying, the entire world. If we could destroy communism, if we could destroy Islam, in the end, humanity will be overall better, right? I mean, sure, you kill these people now, but maybe in 100 years, there will finally be peace forever. And you really have to think that. Do you want to sacrifice an eternal peace just because you care about human rights? You have to truly think about that in perspective.
The thing is, I don't see any evidence that like starting wars with other countries unprovoked. I don't see any evidence that that will lead to a lasting peace. I mean, I feel like it would just lead to, like, for example, if America tried to conquer all of Africa, I mean, probably impossible. But if America tried to conquer all of Africa and let's say they succeeded, I don't think that's going to now lead to peace. I think that's just going to lead to like long term African resistance to American rule. like they'll resent America because of how many Africans will get killed, and they'll resort to partisan warfare. They'll rebel, and like America would never be able to quell the rebellion because it would just be such a large resistance. Um,
Well,
I
you're
don't. I'm not only looking at this from America's point of view. Obviously, it's more important to me is the African point of view of like we don't want to be oppressed. But I'm also saying in terms of like America and peace. Like I don't think there will be peace if you try to conquer people who don't want to be conquered. I think they'll resist for a long time.
well, it's peace through war, for example. Um, if we're going to say, in your example, let's say America takes all of Africa, but let's also say that they kill every African brutally that tries to rebel. Let's say that they put settlers in that land to enslave them. Just an example. Let's say they were to sterilize people en masse, right, to decrease their population. After there is a small amount of black people in Africa, or after there are a small amount of black people that are willing to rebel, there will actually be peace, right? I know it sounds genocidal, right?
Yeah,
If I'm going to
kind
say
of.
that, we need to take over the whole world, but what I truly mean is just to defeat the communists, just to defeat the Muslims, just to defeat every ideology which opposes Americanism. And in those countries, once they are with us, right, once they are with NATO, right, with the EU, then there could finally be a form of relations, right, international relations that are positive. For example, if all of Africa was to support America one day and be pro NATO and everything, let's say China, Iran, and Russia, all to be destroyed as well as every other adjacent, I'd say that the world would be way more peaceful without a country like Russia in it. So if I'm going to have to kill Russians to ensure that peace, I'm willing to do it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Don't you think we just shouldn't be killing anybody? Like, shouldn't America just have its own land and let other people have their own land and not kill
well,
people?
ideally, there would be no war at all, right? There would be no
Yeah,
war on the globe, but that has never existed in human history because humans are inherently racist. Humans are inherently pro-war. Humans are inherently violent, and I think that's a good thing.
okay, well, I'd really disagree with that. So I don't really agree with the idea that humans are inherently pro-war or they inherently have to fight war eternally. That's just how it will be. Because a big reason why I don't believe this is because there's many countries that like haven't fought wars or haven't had genocides for a long time. I mean, like Switzerland, for example, in the last 200 years, they haven't really fought any wars at all. So it's like, are Swiss people just different from other humans where they're not inherently pro-war? And like another example is South America, where even though there's a lot of crime, they haven't gone to war with each other at all in the last 100 years, basically. So are South Americans just different? Like, because you say like humans are inherently want to fight wars, but it seems like South
Correct.
Americans and Swiss people and Swedish people like they haven't fought any wars in so long. So that seems to prove to me that it is possible to just not have war because there's certain countries that just don't have wars ever.
Well, in South America, for example, Brazil and other South American nations intervened in World War II on the side of the Allies. There's also a lot of like just general crime and violence in South America. And even though there's not like South American countries invading each other, of course,
Yeah.
there is still a violent nature to the continent. And Switzerland, for example, the reason it's neutral is because it saw that neutrality brings profit, because it saw that it's a small country and it would lose, honestly, against a bigger nation. So they truly had to pursue that. But in the history of each nation, in the past, they have been very violent. And there's not a single country which has never been violent, right? Or a single race
Sure.
or
Yeah.
ethnic group that has never been violent,
Yeah.
right?
So
I'm sure
yeah.
I'm sure you need someone like a psychologist to analyze if humans are inherently violent or not, but just based off of history, our whole history of humanity has been violence.
Yeah, so I would never claim that there's certain groups that have never been violent or whatever. Like obviously, or
Right.
I'm aware that every ethnic group around the world has at some point, fought wars, committed genocide, done slavery, whatever. What I'm saying is that, like, for many nations, that's long in the past. So, because many countries that's in their past, shouldn't we aim for all countries to put that in their past? Like, shouldn't we aim for all countries to become like Switzerland or become like I'm trying to think of like some other like I guess Sweden or certain countries in South America where it's like shouldn't we aim for a world where there's no war rather than embrace war as a thing?
Well, right. I see what you're saying right here, but I'm going to have to say that embracing war for humanity, again, it plays into social Darwinism. It plays into the survival of the fittest. And we can see that because humans have never actually had a peaceable time in our history collectively, ideally, the only way to achieve that collective global peace that you're trying to say, that that equal rights, right, those freedoms and everything, is to have war first to ensure that there is no opposition, and then maybe there can finally be peace in the world. But for example, what would you do right now if you were president of the U.S. and you said, "I want a peaceful world of equal rights and everything"? How would you do like international relations or something like that?
So what I would say, I mean, when I was a bit younger, I sort of had, I was quite an American exceptionalist when I was younger. I sort of had the idea that America has the power to just fix the whole world. But I now believe like
Right.
America's limited in what it can do. It's still considered the sole
Correct.
superpower, but it can't fix like every issue in Africa and every issue in Asia. I think there's
Right.
certain things that America can do and must continue doing. Like I think America should continue protecting Europe because it's been doing that for many
Right.
decades. Should continue protecting Ukraine. Should continue protecting Taiwan and South Korea. But it's like that's like three regions or conflicts basically. But there's dozens of conflicts in the world. I don't think America has the power. And I don't even know if America should get involved in every conflict, but I don't think America even has the power. Assuming America has only good intentions, I don't think America would have the power to fix every single conflict in the world. So if I was president of America, it's like I'd try my best to continue protecting NATO, Ukraine, Taiwan, South Korea, and
Right.
then with other conflicts, I would. I'm not sure what I would do. I'd either just have to accept that I can't fix the Sudan war, or I can't fix the war in Myanmar, and I just have to leave it, or try to find some diplomatic or economic ways to end the war. But I don't think a
Right.
military intervention is possible on a global scale. I don't even know if it's desirable. So yeah, I just give you a response to all that.
Okay. So military intervention, right, in the U.S. I'm not saying that we intervene in every single conflict in the world. Rather, it is just to focus on those strategic points, right, like Taiwan, South
Yeah,
Korea, um, right, just anything else like that.
yeah,
But I'm also saying that we need to focus on big countries like China, for example, like Russia. And I'm just saying that if we were to, for example, topple Russia or topple Iran or topple China, that those countries would there would essentially be no global threat to America, right? Because China, of course, is the leading, like the second strongest nation in the world, I'd say, after the U.S. So
yeah.
if we were to topple that, for example, it would be extremely easy to secure a new Pax Americana, right? A new form of American supremacy over the rest of the world. And that's honestly what I want. I just want a world where America decides um, who gets what. What I'm trying to say.
So I personally sort of would prefer an American dominant world, but for different reasons from you, I think. Because the reason I want an American dominated world, for now at least, is because America is the only major power that's a democracy, and I'd prefer
Right.
democracies to dominate the world. Like, I don't want Russia and China to dominate the world because they're like oppressive dictatorships and they'll make the entire world oppressive dictatorships. So in my opinion, if China and Russia became democracies, and had human rights, I wouldn't mind them being the dominant powers in the world. Especially if America became a dictatorship and China's a democracy, I'd probably prefer Chinese dominance over the world. But my understanding is your perspective is more like American dominance because it's America or because America's like the best country or whatever. Am I right about that? Or
Oh, right. That does stem from a form of nationalism to want America to dominate the world.
yeah,
But let's say America was a communistic nation. Because I'm a nationalist, I would still want America
really?
to dominate the world, right? I mean, it just stems from a love of the country, right? It truly does stem just from being a nationalist, and that's what I want for every country. I want the Chinese to be nationalistic. I want maybe like Sudanese to be nationalistic. I see no issue with that. I see no issue with Brazilians, for example, wanting to be nationalistic. Because you see, that is the natural struggle of each and every nation. It is for every nation to be for its own people in the world. It is for every nation to have a form of self-nationalism, right? That essentially means that they want to be they want to dominate the world instead of other countries. I think that's just something natural for humanity, and this is evidenced by just the natural struggle of human civilizations throughout the entirety of our history. We have seen that each country wants to do its best for themselves, historically, just historically speaking.
Yeah, generally. Um, yeah, so yeah, I just disagree with that, I guess. With you said you wanted to like overthrow, or you'd ideally want to overthrow like the Russian and Chinese governments. So it's like, so I'd also prefer for those regimes to fall,
Right,
and become democracies, but I don't think it's possible for America to do that because I think that would cause a nuclear war and that would just kill everyone. So don't you think that's very
right.
undesirable for America to try force that, toppling the regimes?
Well, mhm. Well, I'd say that there is a way that we could topple, for example, let's say Russia. We can topple Russia without going into nuclear war, right? It would have to be because we support or because we fund groups inside of Russia, like maybe like Chechnya or maybe just Russian Democrats. We fund them to fight against the government, right? And I know what you mean, right? That it can start a third world war. But historically, American interventionism has been better at preventing conflicts than like going into a third world war, for example. For example, if America was to stop protecting Taiwan, China would take Taiwan, right? And that could
Yeah.
be even more disastrous than what um just just what we have right now in Taiwan. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say.
But like for example, if China tries to invade Taiwan, I think the only thing America really needs to do with Taiwan is to just defend Taiwan. I don't think America needs to like overthrow the Chinese government to defend Taiwan because overthrowing the Chinese government's much more
Right, me too.
difficult than defending Taiwan,
Right, it is. It
and
is.
it could lead to a
But I
massive
think,
disaster. Yeah.
mhm. But if we can do it, we should be able to do it. And no, I'm not trying to say that we should overthrow China or Russia, but let's go to the Middle East, for example. In the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, right, this year, America had the potential to completely disassemble the Iranian regime, right, with Israel. And because Iran doesn't have nukes, so we could
Yeah.
have done that, and it would have been
The
in
th-
favor of the Persian people, actually, because a lot of them don't like the Iranian government, right? A lot of them want freedom.
Yeah. The thing is, wouldn't that, because I mean, I also want the Iranian regime to fall, but I don't think America can do it because what I'd asked you is if America tried to overthrow the Iranian regime, would that not just become another Iraq war, which was a bit of a disaster, or an Afghanistan war even?
Mhm. Well, the reason it wouldn't be that is because there's a lot of domestic support, or there's a lot of domestic anti-government collaborationists in Iran. There is some ethnic minorities like Kurds, for example, that would be against the regime. So, because in Iraq we didn't really have that, right? We didn't really have a lot of people that wanted to help America domestically, And if we were to collaborate with another power like Israel, for example, that's very local to the Middle East, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to disassemble the Iranian regime, right, and replace it uh, with Pahlavi, right, the Shah, the rightful Shah.
The rightful shot. Yeah, I just don't think it would be possible without a lot of violence. Even if there are Iranians who join the struggle against the regime, like it would probably require a lot of bombing, a lot of
It would.
shelling, and I should, in my opinion, war is like the worst thing that can happen and should probably just be avoided at all costs. I mean, I know you believe differently, but I think the worst case scenario is always war. Um,
Well, right, but you have to think about it. What if we fight war now? What if we show that strength now to have peace, right? I mean, this really goes through having peace through war, having peace through strength. If we were to make the world like us through war, it will produce a more peaceful world.
So the reason I disagree with this is, I mean, I can cite an example. Like what you're saying sounds very similar to what I mean. I don't know if you see the word neocon as like a slur, but I mean it's the best term to use. But it's the neocons were saying the same thing in the early 2000s that if we topple every dictatorship in the Middle East, it will lead to peace. Even Netanyahu, I don't know if
Correct.
you're a fan of Netanyahu, but Netanyahu did say, like, oh, if we overthrow Saddam Hussein, this will lead to a peaceful Iraq and a peaceful Middle East. And then after Saddam Hussein was overthrown, and he was obviously a terrible, evil person, but after he was overthrown, there was the Iraq insurgency, there was the Syrian civil war, there was ISIS. So everything in my opinion, got worse in the Middle East after overthrowing Saddam Hussein. So what you're saying and so most people would argue that this shows that America's idea of we liberate everyone or we overthrow all these regimes, it will lead to peace. That doesn't seem to have worked in the Middle East. So based on that, why do you think it would work on a global scale if America tried to do it to the whole world?
Well, in the Middle East, if we're going to go with Iraq, I'd say that Iraq right now, right in 2025, is in a far better situation than it was when Saddam Hussein was still in charge, right? And second of all, we never really collaborated with Israel against Iraq, right? We told Israel actually to not get involved in the Iraq war because it would just hurt relations in the Middle East, but on a global scale as well. If we were to collaborate with Europeans, Japanese, Taiwanese, all these other nations that are pro America, we could actually truly make it work, right? If every country was dedicated enough, right? And this also goes back to the European Union because I think a united Europe is necessary. And Europe right now is not united enough, essentially, to truly help us in a way that
I'm
would
just
promote
curious, are you pro
interventionism.
I'm just curious, are you pro EU, European Union, or are you anti?
Well, I'm pro EU because, of course, I want Europe to be united, right? I want Europe to be essentially a super state, so to speak, like just one country. Um,
You're the first white nationalist I've ever heard who says they support the European Union. That's quite funny.
yeah. Hold on. Have you heard of Richard Spencer?
You're the
Richard
second
Spencer.
one after Richard Spencer.
Right. And he sort of supports Ukraine too, I believe, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not a fan of him because obviously he's a bit of a Nazi.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm just going to say this, but the EU in its current state does promote migration, but that is because just of liberalism, if I were to say this. It would just because of the belief that migrants can develop Europe because because there are not many Europeans in Europe that are new, right? The fertility rate is very low in Europe, and because of that, we need more migrants to fill out the working class, right?
Yeah,
We need it to grow the GDP, right?
yeah.
But what's the point? What's the point of growing GDP if white European natives are a minority in their own homeland, right? And then again, back to American interventionism. I think Iraq right now is in a far better state than it was under Saddam Hussein, right?
Um, I don't know. There was a lot of death and suffering in Iraq. I don't know if they're quite poor, aren't they? Still, um,
Well, currently there's no Syrian civil war. There is no ISIS in Iraq.
but
There's
there's
no
currently a war in Gaza, which is very, very.
right. But I'd say that if we were to leave Saddam Hussein untouched, he would have likely killed more Iraqis than until now than we would have had we not invaded Iraq, right?
Um, I mean, maybe not. It's hard to like say for sure. Like he might have killed more, but we don't know if he would have. What we do know is that like when America invaded, like hundreds of thousands of Iraqis died. So we do know that the
Right,
invasion
right.
caused a lot of death. Um,
But it was temporary death. It was just temporary until we could secure um, an Iraqi democracy.
so did you support invading Iraq to bring democracy to it, or just to make America stronger and safer? Like, yeah.
It's not related to democracy. I support Iraq because it's going to make America stronger, safer. It's also going to make the Middle East safer, right? And in like Netanyahu, for example, he also said that America should invade Iraq. He's pro-American interventionism in the Middle East because he's also anti-Islam, of course, and all that. But
Um,
if we were to do something in Iraq, like completely disassemble it of Islam, for example, right? And instead replace it with, I don't know, Christianity or simply a secular, completely secular government.
or what about
We could
Judaism?
actually,
Would you have a Jewish
Judaism,
government? Is a Jewish
Jewish
government
Iraq.
in Iraq fine? No, I'm kidding. I don't support that at all. I'm just trying to trigger him. Um,
Right.
but yeah, okay,
I
yeah.
mean, I
So
don't
I
think it would
don't,
work.
yeah, I don't really, well, I don't at all agree with trying to suppress a religion of a country. I mean, because you said you're not religious, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So why should Islam be suppressed, but Christianity shouldn't be suppressed?
Well, that's funny because the reason I want to suppress Islam, it's not because I hate Islam, right? Religiously speaking, I actually like a lot of principles of Islam. For example, jihad. I like jihad.
Wait, what?
I like
Are you a jihadi white nationalist?
I'm a white jihadi.
Oh my word. I've, I've never heard of this. Okay, yeah, go on.
Okay. No, but just to say that I just don't like it because it's very, it's spiritually third worldist, so to speak, Islam, right? If you kind of get what I mean, it's like a form of third world nationalism to support Palestine as well. It's like anti-Zionism at its core is anti-colonialism, right? Um, it's like anti-Americanism. So that's
Yeah.
also why I don't like Palestine. That's just another reason. But I'm also going to say that I view Christianity just more favorably than Islam because most Christians are white, right? If it were reversed, and there would be in like every white European would be Islamic, right? And then Muslims, I mean, what we now know as Muslims would all be Christians. I would view Islam as better simply
Really?
because it is what white people would adhere to. Yes. And this stems just really from white nationalism because it's like you have to put your race above your religion, no matter what it is, right? You always have to view your people first, and if you're going to view your people first, then you can't put like Jesus Christ first, right? You can't put I don't know anybody else first. It just stems from a form of racial nationalism over religious nationalism, honestly.
If most white people were Jewish, would you support Judaism? Like religiously Jewish,
Like
I mean.
converts to Judaism, like if
Sorry?
they converted.
Yeah, if they're converted or something like that. Like, would you think Judaism's good or because it's mostly white?
Right. Well, I would actually be pro-Jewish. I mean, you can say that I'm actually slightly pro-Jewish already, like
You
just right
this
now.
is it's interesting. You're pro-Jewish in Israel, but you're like anti-Jewish in
Yes.
America and Europe, basically.
Yes. I mean, it's
Um,
funny. I actually saw you reply to my post about that, right? I saw you reply that it's your like I'm pro oppressing people in Palestine and I'm pro oppressing Jews in like the West, right?
yeah.
Like I just yeah. Well, right. The thing's that the reason I want that is just because at my core, I'm a Zionist who believes that every group of people is entitled to go to their own homeland, right? And I don't want, just like how I don't think that Africans need to live with Asians or white people, I don't think that we need to live with Africans or Asian people. I just think that the world would be a better place overall if we were all in our own homelands, right? And if we were all going to put our race first, if we were all going to put our people first, if we were all going to have nationalism, we would actually have a better world than we have now.
The thing is, I just against forcing people against their will to move somewhere else.
Right. Wait, hold on. But would you force people? Well, hold on. If forcing people to move somewhere else would benefit your own, and it would also benefit the people that they are going to, wouldn't you want to support that? Wouldn't you want to have
So me
a
personally, I
that?
wouldn't know because the
No.
person who's being deported, they're suffering and I mean, firstly, their freedom is being taken away because they're not being allowed to make a choice, but also like their quality of life would probably get worse. So, um, when it comes to like
Right.
a
So you think
deep,
that just
yeah,
because? Oh no, no. You can
yeah,
go. You can
I'm
go on.
done. I was done. Yeah, can carry on.
All right. All right. Well, I was just going to say, just because when you deport, for example, let's say if we were going to deport all African Americans, when you deport those people, if it's going to benefit Africa, and if it's going to benefit America, and if the only people that are going to be hurt from it, so to speak, are those African Americans, well, I think that the benefits do actually outweigh the quote unquote suffering, especially if it means that whites will once again be a majority in your homeland, and if it means that Africa is going to be improved again, right? If it means Africa is going to have more working class people, right? More intellectual people, right? More people that are just overall better than the people they have now.
Yeah, so I don't believe that. So, because basically what you said was it'll benefit white people, it'll benefit white Americans, it'll benefit Africa, but it won't benefit Black Americans. So it
Correct.
sounded like what you were saying was because there are more people who would benefit, then it's a net positive, if I'm correct.
Well, not just more people, but more societies technically as well,
More
right? More
societies that would
nations.
benefit. So, in my opinion, I don't think suffering or cruelty is ever justified, even if it benefits other nations or other societies. Um, that's my opinion in general.
Right. I mean, it's fair to have, I suppose, if you are just pro human rights, but
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Do you have any issue if white people become a minority in America, for example?
Not inherently, no. I mean, not inherently. Like, if the majority was anti-white and we want to genocide all white people, then I would probably have a problem with that, or I would have a problem with that. But I don't think, but like, as I said earlier, I don't think the majority of non-white people in America are racist against white people. In your opinion, what do you think? Do you think the majority of Black and Jewish and Latino people are anti-white or not? What do you think?
Well, I'd say that they actually are kind of anti-white. Like they're actually pro, for example, Black Power. They're pro Jewish Power, for example. And the evidence I'm going to use for this is that, for example, the ADL labels. The ADL is, of course, a organization like created by Jews, right? That's pro-Jewish in America,
Yeah.
and they labeled "It's okay to be white" as hate speech, for example. And yet they don't label, for example, "It's okay to be black" as hate speech, right? And we can also see that through the BLM protests that black people have generally like burnt down businesses, right? Killed people, right? Destroyed property
But that's a
solely
minority of
because,
Black people, and
right?
yeah.
Well, it is a minority of black people, but in the people that would be politically active, right? People that would be into those sorts of things, it would be essentially enough people to warrant a full-on separation from whites. I'd say if it benefits more people, and if it's going to benefit humanity overall in the end, why shouldn't we send them back to Africa? It's going to ensure that we can control our own destiny as white people, and we can control who's in our government, right, and who can is like the owner of corporations, right? We can ensure that white people still can remain in America, and essentially do something for their own benefit. And we can also ensure that Africans do do actions to their own benefits as well.
So, okay, first I want to ask, like, do you think it sounded like you said you think the majority of politically active Black Americans are anti-white? Is that correct? Is that what you said?
Correct. Anti-white, or simply well, but just anti-white. I'll say.
So, I mean, I don't really think so. I feel like, I mean, I mean, I'm not an American, so I don't know everything about America, but just based on what I've seen, I feel
Right.
like it feels to me like black politicians are like more pro-white than like the ordinary black population. That's just how I feel. Like, I mean, like I don't know, like Obama, for example, like he doesn't seem anti-white to me at all. He seems like typical like American. Well, to me, he seems like an American nationalist or an American interventionist. I'm sure you don't like Obama, but so to me, he seems like I wouldn't say he's pro-white. I've never seen him say like, "Yeah, this is a white country, dude," or whatever. But he doesn't seem anti-white at all. He seems to be just great friends with other white people. Kamala Harris, I know she is like half black, but she's considered black in America. Like she doesn't,
Right.
for 1 second, seem anti-white to me. So those are the two black politicians that come to mind. But like based on the major black politicians I've seen in America, like none of them really seem anti-white to me. So why do you think that black politicians are anti-white? Like in what way are they anti-white?
Oh, right. Well, first of all, I reference more of the people that aren't really politicians, but rather people that run maybe the non-governmental organizations, right? Maybe religious groups like what are they called? The
Queer.
Hebrew Israelites, right? Or the
Yeah,
Black Hebrew Israelites, right? Those are very anti-white, but the Obama, for example, let's take your example
yeah,
of Obama and Kamala Harris.
yeah,
They are anti-white in the sense of promoting immigration, which is going to facilitate a form of white replacement, right? And I think that if you want white replacement to happen, or if you just don't care, right, or if you do things to further it, that actually does make you anti-white because it's basically saying, hey, I don't think white people, or I don't care if white people can control their own territory that they created, that they developed, that they settled. I think that anybody can take that, right? I think that anybody can occupy that land. I think um, that, for example, America is not a white nation. I think that America is a nation that can be occupied by anyone. That's what they would say, right? And that is inherently anti-white. If you're promoting white replacement or white genocide, technically, you are anti-white.
Um, okay, so I mean, I guess we have different ideas of what anti-white means. So my idea of what anti-white means or what anti-black or anti-Jewish means, like I have a bit of a strict definition. So a lot of people would say, or a lot of Zionists would say, being anti-Israel is inherently anti-Semitic, or
Right,
wanting Israel to remain majority Jewish at any cost. Like a lot of people would say, if you're against that, then you're anti-Semitic. But I don't, that's not how I see it. In my opinion, anti Semitism would specifically be you want to kill all Jews, you want to enslave Jews, you want to deport Jews,
right,
or you want to deny them human rights. I would not say that wanting Israel to become, I would not say that not supporting Israel remaining majority Jewish, I don't think that's anti-Semitic. Like, because I don't think Israel's demographics should matter. So, in that same sense, with anti-white, I think it's anti-white to say let's kill all white people, let's enslave or deport or disenfranchise white people. I think that's anti-white, but I don't think it's anti-white to like not be against what you'd call white replacement. Like that's my opinion. Like I think anti-white or anti-Jewish or anti-black specifically means like you want to directly harm them. But I don't think demographic change is like
right.
anti-white. That's my opinion.
Well, okay, well, let me say this. If you are promoting policies or views or anything which, in the end, is going to create a full-on extinction of white people, wouldn't you have to consider that anti-white as well? Because just because you're not shooting white people doesn't mean you aren't slowly killing them demographically. For example, black on white crime is higher than white on black crime, and the reason for that is maybe a form of black tribalism which exists which means that they just want to do things that support the African American community, right? And I suppose that's fair, but then we should be able to be tribalistic too, right? If other people can be tribalistic, then so should we. And going back to Israel, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and for the reason of this is because you can be anti-Semitic and support Israel, and you can
Yeah, like
be
you.
anti-Zionist and philo-Semitic, right? So
Yeah,
I would never say that anti-Zionism is
that's probably
anti-Semitism.
me. Like, um, but yeah, okay. So, are you done with your point, or are you still going?
Oh no, I'm done. I'm done. You can go.
Okay. So, I don't. I mean, this isn't a major point because I mean, terminology doesn't really matter to me. But I have a bit of a problem with people using the terminology of like white genocide or white extinction, because
Right.
because you said earlier white people will go extinct, and a lot of people say white people will go extinct, but I don't, frankly, I don't know why you say that, because I don't think white people will like disappear or even become like 1% of America's population. It's just they'll be a smaller fraction of the country's population, or they'll become a minority. But I don't think that being a minority means you go extinct. So I'm just curious why the term extinct gets used often.
Well, I'd have to say that I'm saying extinct because I'm speaking from from like a time span of hundreds of years in the future, right? I'm sure you know that scientists predict that in like the year like 2300, right, or 2200 or something like that, in a few hundred years there will be no single there will be no multiple human races. Everyone will just be one race. Everyone will just be like mixed race. And if you're promoting something like that, I think that makes you inherently not just anti-white, but I suppose anti human racial diversity as well. And white extinction could occur in the sense of, for example, after Rhodesia lost to Zimbabwe. I'm just going to use this as an example.
Are you
When
pro
Rhodesia was
Rhodesia?
taken, Zimbabweans they enacted policies that harmed the white Zimbabwean man, right, the white Rhodesian man, and because of those policies, uh, whites are like 1% of Zimbabwe now and have no power, right? They have no farms, and it's just I think evil to want to just replace a people which built the country, right, with people that did not build that country.
Um, so okay, so I also want to ask about like white genocide, which we sort of mentioned, but like I see genocide as like killing people. So
Right. Well,
and
let me
I
ask you
feel
this
like
then.
I feel just quickly, I'm not saying like,
Right.
oh, I'm offended or I'm triggered by you, but just personally, I feel like when people say white genocide, it kind of downplays like actual genocides have happened where like thousands of people have been massacred. And then to me, it's just frustrating when I see white nationalists who they're not being like massacred on by the thousands, but they say like, oh, we're being genocided when all that's happening is there's fewer white people having children, and so the white population's declining. Like, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't see that as genocide. I see that as white people choosing not to have more kids.
Right. Well, um, I'm going to have to say that if you were to take a country like Japan, and if you were going to enact policies that are going to make the Japanese people have less children, and if you are going to enact policies to essentially bring people that are not Japanese into Japan, right? Let's say you're the president of China and you want to destroy Japan. Wouldn't you want to make it so that the Japanese people don't have children, so that they have a below replacement fertility rate? And then wouldn't you also make it so that people that are not Japanese, like Africans, could go to Japan, and even if they don't kill Japanese, they just grow, and let's say that those Africans are pro-Chinese. Like, if you want to kill Japan, you would have to bring people that hate the country into it, or people that will simply replace the Japanese into it. So this is kind of just reflecting on modern day Europe, right? Modern day America as well. Um, you have all these people that are either Muslims or Hispanics or blacks into Europe or into America. And these people, because the Europeans and Americans have a below replacement fertility rate, it is extremely easy to make white people a minority, and this could make it so that other genocides of the world are not seen as as actual genocides, or like it downplays it. But
Yeah.
you have to realize, if you're going to make a whole race of people minorities in every country that they live in, which will essentially change the West entirely, and it's going to change Europe entirely. I mean, isn't that a form of genocide too? If you, like, even if you don't kill everybody, if you just make it so that they don't have political power, so that they don't have physical power, so that they're like de-armed, right? Wouldn't that also be a form of genocide if you were to like take over those countries?
So in my opinion, just no. I mean, I I only really see genocide as specifically killing. I mean, maybe I know different people have different definitions of genocide, so that might be considered genocide to you. I just think that because often when we see genocides, we'll see a major decline in the population of that racial group, right? So with
Right.
Europe,
That's what we see too.
yeah, so like with Europe, we saw a big decline in the Jewish population. In Rwanda, we saw a huge drop in the Tutsi population. So people often
Sure.
see like a huge population decline, and it's we think of genocide when we see that. But what's happening in America and Europe, there's also a big population decline in the white population, but it's not for the same reasons. Like in those countries,
Right.
in Rwanda or in Europe, it's because people are being like shot or gassed or whatever. Whereas in America and Europe, it's not people getting killed or deliberately violently harmed. It's just that they're choosing not to have children. So, and they're also choosing to elect governments that bring in more immigrants. So, I mean, if the white populations don't want to be like replaced, as you would say, they have the choice to have more white children, and they have the choice to elect a government that won't take in immigrants who aren't white. But
That is true.
white people consistently vote for governments that will bring in more immigrants, and white people consistently choose to have fewer kids. So I feel like that's white people's choice. I don't feel like it's other groups. I don't feel like it's Jewish people or black people or Muslims who are like inflicting this genocide on whites. If there is a genocide because of the white population decline, I would, I know it might sound horrible. I would blame white people for their own white genocide. And and I know it sounds effed up because you shouldn't blame people for their own genocide, but like I don't think there's a white genocide. But the white population decline, I, in my opinion, that's completely because of what white people are doing. So how can we see it? How can we call it a genocide when a group is basically doing it to itself? If you know what I
Okay.
mean.
Right. Right. Let me just say this. Let's go to America, for example. White genocide in America, white replacement in America. Mass immigration from the third world, from non-white countries, went to America essentially after the Hart-Celler Act was passed in 1965, and and I believe it was either Hart or Celler, but
One of them was
um,
Jewish, I
one
know.
of them one of them was Jewish, right? So I'm just going to say that Jews in the West, right, in America, are essentially overrepresented in groups that promote immigration, right? I mean, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, for example, HIS, promotes millions of people to go to the West, right? And Catholic institutions, right? Catholic NGOs and Christian NGOs also do that. They also want immigration to go to the West, and they also don't really have a problem with it, right? They
So the
criticize Trump,
Christians
for
are
example.
responsible for white genocide. Huh.
Right,
It was them all along.
right, I know. Well, no, I'm just saying that the reason that white people essentially are like pro white replacement, if we're gonna say
Yeah.
this, it's because um, it's because of a form of brainwashing which has essentially occurred in the West, which told us that traditional society is not really that good, right? That feminism is good, that that minorities having like equal rights is good, that living next to minorities is good, that it's okay to miscegenate, right? It's okay to race mix. That in all these things, they kind of work together, right? It creates white women that don't want to have kids, that want to go after careers instead. It creates white women that do want to have kids. They have kids with black people or Hispanic people or people that are going to make racially impure children. And it makes white men either porn addicted, right, or too scared to ask white women out, and it makes them either marry Asians or blacks, or it makes them do nothing at all. So honestly, I think that the people responsible for all of this is not just white people, but the elites of the country that are liberal, the elites that are um, also disproportionately Jewish, right? Like Harder Seller, one of them was Jewish, and a lot of Jews in the West are Democrats, a lot of Jews in the West are liberals, right? I'm pretty sure there's a map of the 2024 election, right? If only Jews voted,
It would
every state
every
would have
state
been
would be
Democrat
blue.
one,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Right. Every state would be blue, right? So I'm just saying that a lot of Jews
Well, I think they're right because
are also the reason why
I think the
our president
Democrats are
happens,
based. So
right? Okay. Well, no, I'm just saying that like Democrats generally promote now those kind of like pro immigration policies. They promote that pro like less border security, right? Giving illegal immigrants citizenship, right? So when you ask me, why do white people essentially vote for more immigration, or why do white people vote for more feminism? Why do white people vote for more things that will cause white people to uh, go below replacement level? Well, it is because we have been conditioned as a collective to essentially be self-hating, so to speak, to essentially think that nationalism is like the Nazis, right? The Nazis killed 6 million Jews. That's why they're evil, right? And it's not to say that we need to become Nazis. It's not to say that we need to become Hitler if we want to, right, save the white race, so to speak. But it's just to say that most people are generally uninformed, and the mass media brainwashing is at an all-time high, right? And of course, I can blame some Jews for that as well. I can blame some Jews that are disproportionately in positions of power, which do things against the white race and for Israel. I can blame them for this as well.
okay, so well, for one, I don't personally think that Democrats are like anti-white or that they're like
Right,
self-hating white people. I mean, there certainly are some. Don't get it. There are like woke white
right,
people who are like, oh, us white people are the worst in the world. Like, I don't agree with that at all. But in my opinion, like the mainstream Democrats, I don't think they're anti-white at all. I mean,
right.
if you ask a communist what they think, they'll say the Democrats are white supremacists. So, and then like a far right person will say that Democrats are like anti-white. So my sort of centrist position is just that the Democrats, they're not anti-white, they're not white supremacist. My opinion is just that the Democrats like think all races are equal, except for maybe Palestinians. I'm not sure if Democrats really see Palestinians
Yeah,
as
Democrats are very pro-Israel, actually. Funny
yeah,
enough,
which is my probably my main problem with the Democrats.
right?
Um,
Well, okay.
yeah.
Well, speaking about the Democrats, like I said, if you're going to promote immigration in a white country, that's going to eventually cause white people to become a minority. Then that is inherently anti-white, not because you hate white people, not because you want to kill white people, but rather because you don't care if white people get occupied, right? You don't care if white people become unable to control their own destinies, become unable to control the country which was essentially promised to them. Like I know this sounds funny, but America was promised to us hundreds of years ago. Okay, like like America was promised to the white man hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I don't think it was
Right?
right
It
though,
sounds like
because
it's like a form of Zionism. It's like white Zionism.
it was
Right?
basically white Zionism. Yeah. The problem with that is just that there were like millions of black people living in America, and the sort of manifest destiny idea was just like, well, fuck off, black people, like deal with being slaves. And hey, you Native Americans deal with being genocided and displaced and having your land taken. Um,
Right.
so that's just what I sort of want you to keep in mind. I mean, I don't at all agree with the its promise to the white people. Like I think that's just wrong. But I know you think it sounds, or to you it sounds very like great or empowering. But I want you to keep in mind just what that means for all the black people and all the Native Americans living in America. That this promise to the white people thing is maybe great for white people, but it severely harmed and caused suffering for Native Americans and for black people.
Well, you're right. It actually did cause some suffering to American Indians, right, or African Americans. But if you're going to say, um, am I going to do, am I going to enact this like manifest destiny to benefit my own people? Why shouldn't I do that, right? I think African Americans can do what they can to benefit themselves, right? Same thing as American Indians, right? The little American Indians that are, or the few American Indians that are in America, they have the right to essentially do things that are for themselves. And if if we're gonna look at America with this social Darwinistic worldview, or with the social Darwinistic perspective, we can conclude that white tribalism has won over other racial tribalism. We have seen that white supremacy has won over a black supremacy or Asian supremacy, right? Or else blacks would have controlled the world, or else Asians would have controlled the world. And I know that thinking that American white Zionism harms minorities, and that's why we shouldn't do it. But
Yeah.
if we have to choose between being racist and having people hate us, or not being racist and being replaced in our own homeland, and then eventually having people like Julius Malema, like an African American Julius Malema, rise up and say, "I hate white people." Like if we have to choose between those two things, we should make it so that we can protect our own, we can ensure that our own live in America, and we can ensure that we can ensure that white genocide will never occur. We can ensure that whites will be in America eternally.
Okay. So I mean, I obviously completely disagree, but I hear what you're saying, even though I disagree. Um, we have about 15 minutes left. There's just a few more things I want to ask you about this sort of
All right, all right,
the white ethnostate project. I want to go back to what you said about like if it benefits our race, if it benefits white people, even if it harms black people, like why shouldn't we do it? Well, what
correct.
I would say is and I mean, maybe that it's not a perfect analogy. I think it is, but um, like if I go up to someone and they have like a very nice phone, and I steal that phone, it's like it benefits me, so why shouldn't I do it? Well, the thing is, that's their phone. So even though if it benefits me to have this great new phone, it's like I've harmed that person. I've made their life worse. Or maybe it not. Maybe a phone isn't the right analogy, but maybe stealing someone's house. Like if
Right.
I take someone's house, like, oh, it benefits me, but I've now made them homeless, or I've now forced them to live on the streets or something. So I I really disagree with the idea that just because it benefits you, you should do it. Because I think that
Oh, okay.
always it should be based on like if it harms other people, then you shouldn't do it, even if it does benefit you. So yeah, what's your reaction to that?
Okay. Okay. Allow me to give you an analogy. Let's say you buy a house, all right? You buy the house yourself. You go into the house and you notice that there is not much furniture. It is kind of dirty, right? So what do? You invest into that house, you build it up, you make it cleaner, you buy better furniture, all of that. And then you have people that, for example, let's say that don't have a house, right? And you're a good person, right? You want to help those people. You're a good Samaritan. Well, come on in. Come on into my house. They go on into your house. And then guess what? More people come into your house. And after you have all these people in your house, suddenly you notice that you don't really have a choice about what you can do with that house. I mean, you notice that maybe some people are leaving food everywhere. Maybe some people aren't cleaning up after themselves. Maybe some people aren't doing the laundry. And eventually there's going to be so many people in that house that that the people that came to your house have more control over your house than the house that you paid for, than the house that you originally helped beautify, essentially. And that's essentially what's going on in America. We have all these people that are coming in to our house or country. These people that they come in and they come in and they come in, and there's so many of them that there are not going that they're eventually going to be the majority, whites or us, right? The original homeowner. We are going to be a minority. We cannot control our own destiny. We cannot control um, what occurs to us eventually. And going back to the phone thing, of course, just because you take a phone, right, and it benefits you, but it hurts them. What if you um, what if you don't have food, for example, right? Or what if you're slowly dying or something, right? And you need to steal a phone to like sell it to get money for food, and that's kind of what's happening to us because it's like we're going to commit this evil of deporting black people, for example, or American Indians, or anyone else who's not white in America to create the white ethnostate. But if we don't create that white ethnostate, we're going to be replaced. And those people that are replacing us, they have the potential to become anti-white and hate us. They have the potential to start killing white people. They have the potential to become just overall, just like Julius Malema did in South Africa, just like Mugabe did in Zimbabwe after he pushed out the white people. And I'm going to say this. Have you heard of Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf? I'm sure you have, right?
I've heard the name. I can't remember. Was he the white guy who was murdered by the black guy?
Yeah. He was the white kid in high school, right? He was killed by Carmelo Anthony, who is from a rich family, right? And the point of what I'm trying to bring up is that Carmelo Anthony's family received like $500,000, I believe, to like $1 million from black people who actually like supported him. Um, and I think that just goes to show that there are enough black people or enough minorities in America who are sufficiently anti-white to see a white kid dying in high school and then say, you know what, that's a good thing. We should do that more often. And I think someone like Julius Malema, for example, I'm sure you're very familiar with him in your country.
Yeah, very.
Um, right, and the economic freedom fighters, right? I mean, I'm sure you dislike them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we really want to risk an American Malema or an American Mugabe to come to power to eventually start killing white people, right? Because we can't control our own destiny since we're the minority. So you can go ahead and talk.
Yeah, the reason I just don't think that would happen is the black American population just doesn't seem racist to me. I mean, I know there are black people who donated to Carmelo Anthony or his killer. I don't know which one's which, but they donated to the black murderer. But I'm sure that's a
Right.
very small minority. I'm sure the vast majority of black Americans would be against that murder. So, I mean, if you had to punish certain people, I mean, I'm fine with punishing people who's like individuals who donate to the murderer. But I don't think it's a good reason to say like, oh, the black population in general is a threat and they all need to be punished or targeted. Like, I think that's unfair to the black people who want coexistence and who see the white people as just like their fellow Americans. Yeah.
Well, right. So, coexistence with whites, right? Right. Colors with whites. That type of coexistence historically has not played out well for us, simply because it means that we're now being replaced, and it means that there's more black on white violence and white on black violence, for example. I'm sure you could pull up the actual statistics of it if you wanted to, but we can see that black people and Hispanic people, for example, disproportionately kill more white people than white people kill Hispanic or black people. So we can see that that kind of an integration of has just not occurred properly. And if we want to generalize, if we want to generalize to save our people, right, to ensure that we do not become the minority in our country, I do not see why we can't do that. I do not see why we can't generalize to essentially help our own, right, and be against a group of people which might not have our best interests at mind, or maybe they do. But even if they do, they're still foreign to this land. They're still not true Americans, so to speak.
Yeah, so I mean, I do just completely disagree, but I don't
Right,
think there's much more I can say to convince you. There's a few more things I want to ask, and then we can wrap things up. So,
right,
hypothetically, if because you support mass deportations of all the black people, so
right.
what if it probably wouldn't happen? I'm sure there would be African countries who'd be willing to take them in, but hypothetically, let's say every single African country said no, we're not going to let Black Americans in. We think this is an injustice for America to deport these people. We refuse to take in any Black refugees. So if that were to happen, no African countries want to take them in. Like, what would you do about the Black population? Like, would you say, okay, we'll let you coexist with us, or like, what would your solution be then? If they literally can't leave, they don't have anywhere to go. They can't go to Africa.
Okay. Okay, so let's say that they can't go anywhere, right? They can't go to Latin America, they can't go to Asia, they can't go anywhere, so
Yeah.
they have to stay here. Um, I'd say that the best solution would be to first of all do what Malcolm X believed, which is to separate us, which is to have a form of segregation, right? Segregation to create black communities for them to live in, and then we reduce their population, whether it be through promoting uh, less less births, right? Less black people being born, right? Either through increased abortions, or maybe we sterilize them. Maybe we sterilize some of them to reduce their population. We could. I can see a black state eventually being created, maybe to house all the black people after they have been reduced enough to fit into that state. I'd say.
Okay, I see. So I don't agree, but I see what you're saying. Another question I have is, what do you want to do with? So what would happen with mixed race people? So people who have like a black father and a white mother, or a black mother and a white
Right.
father. Like, what happens to them?
Wait, would you say mixed race people that are like 50-50, like
Yeah,
half and
like
half?
50-50, basically.
Okay. I'd say that mulattoes, for example. Let's take the black and white mix, for example. Um, Mixed race people who ideologically sympathize with us. I wouldn't have much issue with them because after all they are half European. After all, if they do view fascism favorably, they can stay here. But otherwise, if they identify as black or if they identify more with their minority culture, I could certainly see mixed race people being deported to Africa. And you know what? That actually would help Africa because then again, they would have more people that are part of that advanced working class, people that are more intellectual than the Africans already there. So, so yeah, that would basically be my solution, obviously, right now.
Okay. And the last thing I want to ask is about Native Americans. So, what in your
Sure,
white ethnostate, what would happen to them? Are they being deported, or are they being allowed to stay? Because I mean, they've been there longer than white people have been there. So,
fair,
are they going to be
fair.
deported, or are they going to be allowed to stay? If they're allowed to stay, are they going to be segregated? Are they going to have fewer rights? Like, are they going to be allowed to vote? That kind of thing. So, what would your uh, aim be with Native Americans in the white ethnostate?
Okay, so there are not many Native Americans in America generally, but But honestly, if we can fix the white birth rate and deport everyone else who is a threat to us, right? Whether it be black people or Hispanic people or Asians, we deport all of them and we keep the American Indians, and we have a high fertility rate. Eventually, we can allow the Native Americans or the American Indians to live in their own reservations, right? Maybe we create a state or dedicate a state like Oklahoma, for example. We dedicate it solely to the American Indian man. We take all the white people out. We put all the American Indians in there, and and because they have such a small population, it wouldn't really matter um, if we do have a high fertility rate, right? If we have an above replacement level rate, there will be so many white people that American Indians could not do anything to, to kill white people or to revolt or anything. And let's say if they tried to revolt, we would have to punish them severely. I'd say through deportations or something like that. Yes.
Okay, I see. So I mean, even though I disagreed with like 99% of what you said, and I'm like, yeah, I don't endorse fascism at all. I appreciate that you're willing to at least debate and have your views challenged, and then I could have some of my views challenged. So yeah, thank you for joining me for the debate. I hope you change your mind on fascism and become a base liberal.
All right.
But yeah, I think that's all for now.
All right. Well, you know what? Hold on.
Yeah.
I hope that you see that that white replacement is very real in Europe, and that you have to at least acknowledge that white replacement, whether it be good or bad, is happening, and that whites eventually will be a minority in Europe or America.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
If you want to debate me on any of these issues, let me know and we can set it up.